and welcome to Inside the Program on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. With me, as always, managing publisher at IT, Eric Nalin. I'm your host, Justin Wells. Hey, before we get into it, please like our video, subscribe to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel. We keep building this thing. Join us along that way. And also come see us at InsideTexas.com. Use the promo code IT1, and that'll get you 2 months of InsideTexas.com for only $1. That gets you into spring. Fall practice. That gets you into a lot of the stuff in August two-a-days. Come see us at InsideTexas.com, IT1 for 2 months. Eric, man, I don't even know where to begin. This week has been a week. We have been seriously busy with, I feel like every sport has been covered in some way in the last 4 or 5 days. From Jim Schlossnagle to Scottie Hazelton hiring to basketball to recruiting. It's been kind of crazy. Let's start it off with team, because we know that's the bread and butter at Inside Texas and people love it. We're gonna get a little update on the defensive tackles, the transfer defensive tackles. What's the latest you're hearing from that room?
Yeah, well, I was just trying to answer questions that we get asked on Inside Texas or the YouTube channel. We got asked a couple questions this week. I didn't have, answers that were felt satisfactory. So we reached out and got the latest. It's kind of what we already expected with Jermaine Lole and Bill Norton. They're not expected to set the world on fire, but they are expected to be mature in the right place. They're already demonstrating their experience within the program, their experience on the field with understanding run fits. Basically, they're brought in what we thought they were brought in for, to be rotational players, to be able to spell each other, to make each other better by sharing snaps, sharing reps, and come in with physical and mental maturity that the program needed.
Yeah, and then at that room, Kenny Baker, he needed some of those guys. We had talked about that all throughout the offseason. Were they going to add one? Were they going to add two? Well, they added three, and that was probably what was needed for the cycle.
Everybody wants to hear that they brought in somebody that's going to set the world on fire. That's not the case. We're not going to BS you on that.
Right.
They're good, solid players. There's a lot of room between a bad player and being a good player. I think the internet tends to say you're one or the other with nothing in between. There's a wide chasm in between. There's good, solid players that are going to improve the defense. They're going to bring the scheme alive and make other players better around them. The edges are going to perform better because these guys are sound. The linebackers are going to play better because the guys in front of them are sound. But they themselves are not going to set the world on fire like, Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. But that's okay.
Yeah, and you don't always have to have that. You can do things with the core of those guys. And so Kenny Baker's got that room kind of jazzed up. Another room that we need to talk about is linebacker and Johnny Nansen and what he's been able to do. Yeah. That one was a little bit more stocked from when he arrived, but he's already kind of making an imprint in that room. What's the latest you're hearing on Johnny Nansen?
Yeah, there was a lot of optimism that he was going to get the linebackers run fits right. He's doing things a little bit differently than Choate. So there was a bit of an acclimation period for the new linebackers that they're getting used to Nansen's coaching style and his techniques. That's already taken root. There's a lot of optimism the linebackers going to play well this season. But he's running the whole team-wide drills as far as run fits goes, and he's coaching all 11. He's not just coaching his linebackers. He coaches very hard. There's definitely a different personality than Choate. Choate more of a player's coach. Nansen's riding him pretty hard. Both styles work. I'm not making an opinion. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I've seen players, coaches excel, and the guys that get on their ass, some players tune them out. They get tired of that. But both styles work. But Nansen is in control of that defense within that drill. I'm not saying he's taken over or anything like that. Don't read too much into it. But his influence is showing. And, I'm happy to hear that because my number one concern regarding the whole team this year is coordination between the three levels of defense. It sounds like Nansen has taken a role to make sure that's not a big problem going into August.
And what's significant also is Tausili Akana has been working in that room. And that's incredibly noteworthy. Obviously come in, playing some edge, playing some of that jack. Now he's playing a little bit of that linebacker. How significant is Tausili in that room for you?
Well, it's interesting. When they signed him, they didn't really care what position he played. They brought him in to be a pass rusher, whether it's linebacker, edge, Sam, or whatever. They didn't care. They just think he has really good pass rushing traits, and that's borne out on the field. He's young and needs to still add weight and strength, but he's a good natural pass rusher, good with his hands, bends well, very good body control. But so I don't really care where they have him because his goal is going to be to rush the passer. But right now they're working him at Sam, and Sam has a lot of overlap between Buck, which is where he played a lot last season. But he's bounced a little bit between back and forth. I think eventually he's going to carve out a role as Sam. I don't know if it's going to be this year, just because you look at the guys they have in front of them. Trey Moore, Colin Simmons. It might be tough for him to get. Darian Gillette is going to get a look at Sam as well. Maurice Blackwell has played Sam. I mean, there's just a lot of different things they can do between Buck and Sam. However, Akana does have upside. They want him in the program, but he's more of a guy that's going to take a little time in the weight room. We knew that when he came in. He got to Texas like 200 pounds.
I'll tell you somebody else that's has a lot of upside. That's Andre the Lawyer. This video, let's go ahead and pay the bills. This guy does it. This video is brought to you by Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that has secured millions and millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury cases. Do not let insurances tell you what your claim is worth. Hire Andre the Lawyer. He is a long-time Longhorn. Principal offices in Dallas. He'll help anyone out. He's a guy you need on your side of the ball. 214-444-8808. That's Andre the Lawyer at 214-444-8808. A little bit of news we broke this week. I mean, you could have said there's a handful of things we were early on, but this one was kind of significant. I think this kind of went under the radar a little bit too, Eric, but not at IT. Scottie Hazelton gets picked up, and this is a guy with a lot of skins on the wall. You talk about Sark building a nice bullpen. This, in my opinion, is a little under the radar. Tell us a little bit about the significance of bringing on Scottie Hazelton.
Texas fans might remember him from being on the sidelines at K-State for that year, the guy that had the big beard, Grizzly Adams-looking dude. He's a Craig Bowl guy at North Dakota State and then Wyoming. If you know anything about Wyoming, and Texas fans should know a little bit about Wyoming. They played them last year. Was it last year? Yeah, it was last year, I think. And very tough defensive-minded, disciplined team. And he's a protege of Craig Bowl. Craig Bowl had a fantastic career as a head coach. You like that. Recently, he was at Michigan State. Got caught. He didn't get caught up, but he had the misfortune of signing on with Mel Tucker at the wrong time. So he was a riser within the coaching ranks. He's got a good reputation. I think he's going to fit in tremendously. They're basically bringing him for the Gary Patterson role. And now that the coaches are able to coach and he's got a defensive background in the secondary, maybe he's going to have a little bit of fingerprints in there as well. So basically you have three guys on the staff that are capable of being defensive coordinators between Nansen, Pete Kwiatkowski, the number one defense coordinator, and now Hazelton. Another set of eyes on everything. It's just a fantastic addition. He's probably going to be a defensive coordinator again next year somewhere. But you enjoy these guys while you can, and you keep mining the ranks where these guys are looking for a year to find a home.
I personally found the timing of this one significant because of the new NCAA rule where basically anybody can coach. If you're on the staff, you can get out there, you can have a hands-on approach, and bringing Hazelton in, I think is big for that. And so let's shift it over to the players. Let's give them a little bit of love. It's 7-on-7 season in Austin right now. This is how they roll on the offensive side a lot of times, obviously with the defense, but tell us kind of who's showing out. Like, I feel like there's one name we hear a lot, but I mean, we can't argue with sources. This is what we're hearing. Give us some of the players that are showing out early in this month of June in 7-on-7.
Yeah, I don't get tired of hearing Ryan Wingo's name because, when you hear it, it just makes you more confident that he's going to be good and good early. The last two guys that we heard this much about this early in their career were Xavier Worthy and Byron Murphy. We wrote about those guys ad nauseum. Pretty much every team update we had was mentioning those guys, and both of them ended up being first rounders. And, I don't want to say that Ryan Wingo is going to be a first rounder, but Ryan Wingo is probably going to be a first rounder. I feel really good about that. And he's going to play this year. Everybody asked about wide receiver rotation. I'm not in Sark's brain. I don't know exactly how he's going to work it. I do expect he's going to rotate more often, and we're going to see Ryan Wingo quite a bit. But, we'll see. But I can't wait to hear about Ryan Wingo in August, and I can't wait to watch him in September. And then another player that went under the radar as a recruit, but unless you read IT, we talked about him quite a bit. Was tight end Jordan Washington. He's doing really well in 7-on-7. As far as a route runner, he's a lot more advanced than most freshman tight ends, and then he's got good size. He's not out there running routes as the undersized guy, the flexed guy. He's got real tight end size at 240 pounds, and he catches the ball. I probably forgot to write that in my update that his hands are showing out. I shouldn't have forgot that. Pretty important part. But yeah, he looks like he's going to contribute this season, and eventually, we expect him to be a really good player. We expect him to be drafted, potential superstar at the position. Actually, a lot of people have lamented Jeff Banks' recruiting. It's not his fault that the networks missed on Jordan Washington. He got a start last year.
No, that's a great point on the hands, because that's the first thing you notice when he plays basketball: his feet and his hands, and that's a combination for a big tight end that can do a lot of damn damage. Hey, last year Trey Wisner was that special teams kamikaze in a sense. He was the one coming down there, bringing hat, doing plays with a little edge now, plays with a little crazy on his shoulder. But I think that's why everybody loves him. You know what? We think there could be another one of those in the mix. With Jeff Banks, like you talked about at tight end coach, he's also special teams coach. He has made the third phase of football as important as 1 and 2. People in the program know that. Tell us a little bit about a special teams guy we need to watch, a la like a Trey Wisner from last year.
Yeah, I like the kamikaze analogy, because I could see Jeff Banks being the one that was talking to those pilots beforehand and have you pumped up. And right before you make impact, you realize it's a little too late to turn back now. Yeah, I think that's how Trey Wisner hit last year. We needed August to learn about Trey Wisner. Now, we had heard good things last offseason. One source says, "Hey, look, I didn't know what to expect when I first saw this guy. He's a little rough around the edges, but the dude loves football and gets after it." And you're right, he's well respected in that locker room because of the way he gets after it. He came from 2 good high school programs. Just a little more mature than I think people expected him to be. And you got to be assignment sound on special teams, and he showed that. The number one name that jumps out as a possibility, and again, we're going to need August intel to see if he can really pull it off, is Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith, it wasn't Trey Wisner he was compared to, it was Maurice Blackwell. Maurice came in a little on the underside, still not the biggest guy. Anthony only came in at about 200 pounds. Now, he's put on a lot of good muscle since he arrived. We knew he was going to be a fast gainer. But he's fast, he's physical. They feel like he's going to be someone they can trust. And so he's the number one guy that was mentioned. But, there's other candidates. Jordan Johnson-Rebel was mentioned, smart, physical, run down and hit you. And both the running backs, Jarrett Gibson and Christian Clark, I was a little surprised to hear those guys, because they're not quite the same body types as I don't think anybody wants to get hit by Jarrett Gibson, right? I mean, it's bad enough you got to hit him. Now he's coming down tackling you. I'm going to sidestep that. And then Christian Clark, I was a little surprised, but these guys are obviously showing good things within the program. It's not just about athleticism, being on special teams. You got to be reliable, and you've got to have an edge to you, man. You got to run down there and hit people.
Eric, I don't think people realize fall camp is basically a month away. Like, we're actually that close. It kind of hit home with me this morning reading your article. It's like, you know what? In a blink, football season's going to be here. July's going to fly by. And July is going to be a blast, by the way, with the recruiting coverage. You got to come see us. You got to hang out for that. What's the upcoming schedule for the next month or so for this team as they get prepared mentally for a big, long welcome to the SEC in the 2024 season?
Yeah, well, the coaches went on vacation yesterday. I mean, there's no such thing as a vacation, if you're a college football coach, because you always have recruiting. Now, the good thing that I've heard is that they've got a much better handle on how the month of July is going to go as far as commitments are, and so they're not going to be as nervous. They probably won't have to work the phones quite as hard as they had in the past. So they're going to get a little bit of a vacation. The players don't have a vacation; they got theirs in May. They'll get a couple days off for the 4th of July and that Friday. Of course, they're off on the weekends. Then they'll be right back to work on the Monday. I think is the 8th. And so they don't really get any days off. Then there's the SEC media days. Texas goes July 17th, and that's really, to me, like the signal that, all right, off season is pretty much over. Now it's preseason, and then I think they come back on July 31st for fall camp. And so I think with the start of the season is August 31st, I believe, the last day of August. Yes. And then so a month from the start of the season, they'll report for camp, and then things are going to be off and running. That's really our bread and butter. If you like inside information on the team, you really should sign up to Inside Texas. Nobody does it better as far as having practice reports after pretty much every practice. We don't rely on practice being open to the media. We'll be there, of course, like everybody else, but we're there even when we're not there.
That's what it is, top to bottom. Like this video, subscribe to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel. Again, we are climbing. Help us get to that 8,000 mark, and come see us at Inside Texas. We just gave you a taste of what it's like over there this week. Go and get the whole meal. I'm telling you, it's worth it. Get you some buffet. IT1 is the promo code. Get you 2 months of Inside Texas for only $1. Only $1 for the premium access. That's going to get you through the majority of the summertime and get you almost prepped for week 1 when Colorado State and the Fighting Jay Norvells head to Austin, Texas. Eric, thank you again as always. This was always a pleasure. And fans and viewers, thank you so much for making us a part of your day. And thank you again for joining us on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com.